What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, Tuesday, November 21st. Oh, it's almost Thanksgiving, guys. This is the official podcast of the fantasyfootballfanatics.com. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined by CJ, the Hitman Hickman, and Jason Cabrera. What's up, guys?
How about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys?
I'm catching,
Resident Eagles fan?
Sarcasm. I'm catching your sarcasm.
Yeah.
The most.
I have a feeling this is gonna go off the rails real quick. I can already see it coming.
We are all of, what are we, like 20, 30 seconds in, and already, yeah.
And off the rails.
CJ, the most biased analyst when it comes to NFC East football that there is in the biz. So, okay. Well, anyway, welcome to the show, everyone. We have an amazing show for you guys today. Today, as always, we're going to be talking about all of the studs and duds from week number 11, all the top headlines from around the league, and, of course, the reason you're all here are top waiver wire targets for week number 12. And with that, let's get right into it. Dive into our studs and duds from week number 11. And we start, as always, with the quarterback position, when we have to start with a guy that we saw on Thursday Night Football, unless you were like me seeing Justice League for the first time. But watch the replay. And, yeah, he went off for 36, almost 37 fantasy points, just under 300 yards, 4 passing touchdowns. And, yeah, this is what we've been expecting from Ben Roethlisberger all season long. In a lot of ways, the Steelers' offense has been disappointing to this point, but a glimpse of the possibility of what happens when everything seems to click in the second half. So, yeah, does this excite you guys, give you confidence in Ben Roethlisberger going forward?
For this past week, yes, it's great. But I want to see this every single week, and it's something I haven't been able to see every single week. This offense flows now through Ben Roethlisberger. If everything, the success with Juju, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon, the tight end position, even Martavis Bryant trying to get in, it goes through Big Ben, and he has to be more consistent. I'm tired of looking at him, seeing overthrown passes, seeing he's just off the mark, off target with a lot of throws. So games like this, you have to congratulate him. But watching that game tape again, man, it was a lot of frustrating passes while this game was going on.
Decent matchup at home in Pittsburgh. But, yeah, the offense needs to go through Ben Roethlisberger because, really, it's been going through Le'Veon Bell. And not to say that that's a bad thing, but he has had so many more rushing attempts than even the next guy, which is Jordan Howard. It's really staggering. The fact that he hasn't gotten hurt is really impressive, knowing his injury history. So, deep sleeper, James Conner right there. A guy I've rostered all season long, waiting for that Le'Veon Bell injury. Not that I'm hoping for someone to get hurt, but, it'd be a nice, sneaky league-winning pickup. So just putting that out there, bonus material. With that, we'll move on to Kirk Cousins, your number 2 quarterback on the week. Good for 31, just under 32 fantasy points, 0.98. 322 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns in a losing effort. Shockingly, I thought for sure that this game was over, and then the Saints, of course, came back to win it. But Kirk Cousins, he played an amazing 98% of this game, and unfortunately it was not enough to get it done. Losing Chris Thompson was obviously not helpful. And your number 3 quarterback, no surprise here, Tom Brady, 31.5 fantasy points, 339 yards, and 3 passing touchdowns. So those are your top 3 quarterbacks on the week. Let's move to the running backs. LaShawn McCoy getting it done. 24.5 fantasy points, 114 yards and a touchdown. Also had a receiving touchdown. Someone had to try and get the freaking Bills back in this game after the debacle that happened at the quarterback position. What
do we say? What do we say? This is the stupidest decision I've ever seen to put this kid in. He is clearly not ready. What in the world, man? Come on.
Yeah, Nathan Peterman. We'll get there.
Nathan for you, Peterman.
Yeah.
Nathan, here's an interception, Peterman.
Yeah.
So bad.
I mean, everything we've been saying and we're telling people on and off the air came true. 5th round rookie quarterback goes out and just completely craps the bed. Tyrod Taylor comes out and actually puts up a streamable performance. But we'll get to that. We're getting ahead of ourselves. We're talking about running backs. We'll move on to Latavius Murray, who kind of ruined my start of the week. Jarrett McKinnon still had a serviceable week, but Latavius Murray got all the touchdowns. 95 yards and 2 touchdowns, so good production there. And then Mark Ingram continuing to be just a monster, 134 yards and a touchdown. And to kind of top it all off, we talk about this amazing 1-2 punch with Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara was the number 5 running back on the week. So the two of these guys, insane. Over the last quarter of the season, still the number 2 and number 3 running backs on the same team. And this is why Drew Brees has kind of been not as fantasy relevant, because the running game is legit with Adrian Peterson being gone. So, yeah. So that's the secret. If you want to improve your running game, apparently you trade away a future Hall of Famer. That's the secret, apparently. At the wide receiver position, At the wide receiver position, Antonio Brown finally putting up a monster week, 32.5 fantasy points, 13 targets. He hauled in 10 of those for 144 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's a good thing. A guy you earned a high first-round pick on. So, CJ is very happy about this.
Sure he is.
I mean, this was by far and away his best performance on the season. This is why you drafted him. But you guys know that this is his, obviously his only 30-point performance, but he only has one other performance all season long where he got into the 20-point range, and that was only 21.5 points. So, I mean, he's definitely not, he's been good. Obviously, he's been good. I mean, he's still a top wide receiver on the year, the number 2, in fact, but he has not been the player that we've been hoping. Though he already has over 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns, so I guess it's hard to complain. The wide receiver position as a whole has been slightly, well, actually, really all of fantasy football has been slightly inconsistent, I guess we could really say. Your number 2 wide receiver on the week, Keenan Allen, finally getting it done, and he goes off for 159 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. Oh, man. I guess that happens when you have 5 takeaways in the first half of a game. And then they also forced a fumble later on. And was that the only one, if I remember correctly? One forced fumble, Tyrod Taylor? That was his only mess-up, right? I can recall off the top of my head. I don't have his stats in front of me. But yeah, he goes off for 2 touchdowns, which is good because he hasn't scored a touchdown since week 1. He's been an okay wide receiver, but definitely not a guy that you had hoped he would be. But yeah, this is more the pace of it. So 12 receptions on 13 targets, basically holding in everything that went his way. Hopefully we'll see more of this going forward. And then, oh God, Kenny Stills ruining many a fantasy football player. He went 7 for 8 for 180 yards and a touchdown. And I know I got a lot of questions like, why didn't you guys talk about Kenny Stills? Oh, where did this come from? Whatever happened to Devontae Parker? Well, it's this crazy thing called Jay Cutler got knocked out of the game, and Matt Moore came in, and Matt Moore only has eyes for Kenny Stills. He's the first, second, and sometimes the third read as well. He throws YOLO passes to him. So with that kind of, it doesn't sound that impressive because he only had 8 targets, but, he literally, every time he got a chance, he was chucking the ball at Kenny Stills, and he's shown a history of doing this. So, if Matt Moore starts, Kenny Stills, honestly, is a safe, streamable option, if you ask me, because that's why we were all so high, especially I was high on Devontae Parker this year, because we saw that connection with Jay Cutler and him. But, if it's not Jay Cutler and it's Matt Moore, Kenny Stills, he's done this in multiple weeks. So, I don't know. Are anyone else talking about him as a waiver wire addition? I didn't look.
No, I don't have him on my list.
I don't know if Matt Moore's going to be around for long. If he's still there, yeah, absolutely, you want to pick him up if he's on the waiver wire.
Yeah. No, none of us did. Okay, so there's a little extra news there, stipulation. Because Jay Cutler, as we'll talk about in the news, his status is up in the air. But yeah, the last times that Matt Moore was in the game, he goes off for, 85 yards and 2 touchdowns there. So, just monster performances. Let's move on to the tight end position. And we have O.J. Howard. We said he'd have these good weeks. That was my argument. Not a lot of volume. 4 targets. He hauled in 3 of them for 52 yards and a touchdown. 11 points is all it takes to be a top performer at the tight end position this year. So there you go.
That's every year, man. The tight end position is just a horrible position group for fantasy. But I got to say something.
I wouldn't say every year.
I I say every year. I've never been impressed because we've had high performers, but any given time there's like 2, 3, maybe 4 that play really well and get you high numbers, and then everybody else across the NFL you get crap. So especially moving forward. I mean, it's like almost just you're starting to see kind of a phase out of these kind of players. You've got Gronkowski and then a couple other guys, and then from there there's a big drop off. But I gotta say this though. I think a couple weeks ago, CJ and I were not on the show, and of course, Griffin had to call us both idiots because we liked O.J. Howard.
I did, and I stand by it.
It would be the norm. It would be the norm for him to get negative points. Well, that has not been the norm this year for him. He has been very boom bust, as we said, which is why you put him on the waiver wire, which is why you pick him up on the waiver wire, and he goes and pulls a week like what we saw this week and gets you very decent numbers for a tight end. So, not idiot. We're not trying to steer anybody wrong when we're talking about O.J. Howard. We like what we see, and this is why, because every now and then he's going to blow up on you. Now, next year, once he's been in there a year, it's going to be even better.
I mean, yeah, but again, he's in a timeshare, and if you guys want to stream him,
look at that timeshare right there, 11.2 points. How many points did Cameron Brate get?
Cameron Brate, I mean, a dud, and that's the thing. Most people are starting Cameron Brate. Yeah. But, okay, if we want to open this can of worms, we can, because over the last – okay, so you've been saying pick him up for the last couple weeks. So, and this was after his big performance where he put up 21 points against Buffalo in Week 7. Week 8, 16 yards, 1.6. The Week 9, 6 yards, and a fumble, 1.4 points. 0 points against the Jets, didn't record a reception, and then now he goes off for 52 yards and a touchdown. So if you want to have, play him every single week for that one magical week every quarter of the season, that's all you.
And you go back to the Giants, and he scored 12.3 points against the Giants. So again, boom bust. We knew he was going to be boom bust. We weren't telling everybody start him over Cameron Brate. We were saying if you need a tight end, the tight end pool is so bad that he is a decent option to pick up because you don't know when he's going to go off. And if you play the matchups, usually you can do a pretty good job with this guy.
Right. But again, if you want to jump back to the Giants, you have to go 2 weeks, New England, Arizona, where he combined both those weeks for 1.5 points. So that's what I'm saying. That's why, look, and we've been saying this since the preseason. Name a tight end
who hasn't been that bad.
Hold on, let me get there. We've been saying this since
like 5 of them.
Since he was drafted. Awesome. By far, top talented, tight end in the draft class, bright future, but rookie year on a team that already has an established pass-catching wide receiver, a team that is opting to use him more of a blocker, which has been the case if you check all the film and look at the all the advanced stats. He's going to have these games. It's going to happen, but it's few and far between, which is why I'm not rostering him, because you never know when it's going to be, because in good matchups, he's put up no points. In bad matchups, he's had good production and everything in between. So, I mean, if you want to roll the dice with O.J. Howard, you need a boom-bust week, go for it. I mean, obviously, he can get it done, but I'd rather have a floor play than a complete boom-bust. So he was...
Of course. But you're talking about waiver wire targets. If you want to talk about waiver wire targets in the tight end position, you're talking about boom bust. Because, again, how many of these players are going to consistently get you a decent amount of yardage? Very few of them.
I mean, generally from the tight end position, I'm looking for more of a touchdown than yardage. The only one you can really count on for yardage is Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski. And it was Greg Olsen, but obviously he has not been around. I mean, those guys are yardage. Yeah. Everyone else is touchdown dependent.
And even Travis Kelce, he's had games where he scored 3 points, 0.1 points, 4.4 points. So, I mean, the tight end position is that way. And really the entire, honestly, like you were just alluding to earlier, the entire NFL is sort of that way this year. There's no one that's been extremely consistent game to game.
That's true. But, I mean, if we're going to play that game, Travis Kelce at least has 738 yards and 5 touchdowns on the season. So, I mean, that's
I'm not saying
a good floor.
O.J. Howard over Travis Kelce. I'm saying if you're looking for a waiver wire option and you don't have a tight end, absolutely.
To be fair, Travis Kelce has thrown an interception this year, and O.J. Howard does not. So, I mean, we can make that argument, too.
Which so obviously it's better to hand O.J. Howard the ball to throw, I guess. I don't know. statistically. That's why I don't believe statistics very often.
Fair enough. So O.J. Howard was your number 3 tight end. Your number 2, we're doing this one backwards. The number 2 tight end, Jimmy Graham, Monday Night Football, 58 yards and a touchdown, also caught a 2-point conversion. And then Ricky Seals-Jones, who is, correct me if I'm wrong here, Jason, Cardinals tight end, who none of you have probably ever heard of, and he is the 3rd string tight end, if I remember correctly.
Well, I've heard of him, and no, he's not the 3rd string tight end. I would believe he is the 4th string.
4th. Oh, sorry, my mistake.
Wow, even more. Even going further down.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
He hasn't caught a single pass all season.
Jermaine Gresham, you've got Troy Nicholas, you've got Yafani Moma, and then Ricky Seals-Jones, who they brought in off the practice squad. So, yeah, it's a weird situation.
Hasn't caught a ball all season long, and then he goes off for 54 yards and 2 touchdowns to be your number 1 tight end on the week. And no, do not rush out and pick him up. It's a bad idea. Correct, Jason? Resident Cardinals fan? Don't do it?
Don't do it. Keep your eye on it because remember, we got a brand new quarterback, and anytime you switch quarterbacks, just like we were talking about earlier with who are we talking about? Kenny Stills. He maybe has eyes more for Ricky Seals-Jones, so keep an eye on it.
Well,
don't roster him. Just keep an eye on it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, keep a distant eye on it. Look through a scope at it. I'm not following it very closely, but it's possible. We have the 3rd string quarterback playing with the 3rd, 4th string guy, so he's got that rapport with them. So it's possible, but I'm not banking on it because we also don't expect Blaine Gabbert to be potentially there for the long run. We don't know how that's going to play out.
He played better than Drew Stanton has, so we'll see.
We will see. And, ever since Carson Palmer went down, I was hoping to see Blaine Gabbert, and here he went out and had a decent game. In a good matchup, to be fair. Now, with your studs, you always have your duds, and this is where we get a little bit of fantasy therapy, as always. And we'll start with Nathan Peterman, which nobody probably started, but we have to talk about it. He, again, 5th-round rookie.
So bad.
Why? And we talked about this, of course, on Friday's show. Why are you starting a 5th-round rookie or quarterback, rather, when you have Tyrod Taylor, who has been fine, who has your team currently in a playoff spot, a winning team? And he throws 5 interceptions in the first half, gets benched. Tyrod Taylor comes in. So he throws 5 interceptions in one half of football when Tyrod Taylor's had 3 turnovers on the season to that point. So Tyrod Taylor plays half a game of football and has a streamable performance. He finishes as the quarterback 11 with a little over 20 fantasy points in a 6 points per passing touchdown league. So if you forgot to set your lineups or take Tyrod Taylor out, you actually had a pretty decent day. So that's something. If we go into a more serious look at guys you probably actually started, Dak Prescott let everybody down. Negative 1.2 fantasy. Oh, Nathan Peterman, by the way, negative 0.96. Dak Prescott, negative 1.2. Sorry. Yeah. What is there to say? This was a tough matchup. His offensive line is gone. His run game is not what it should be. And Dak Prescott did not take that step that you hope to see a young, up-and-coming, potentially superstar guy do. I mean, CJ, of course, you'll be a little bit biased on this, but, you, of course, had close eyes on this game. But, Dak Prescott, he's rarely under pressure because he's got a great offensive line. Well, he doesn't have that offensive line. He had a divisional opponent who knows him, his tendencies. They've studied all the tape. His line's beat up, so he's under pressure, and we got to see what he does in a tough matchup under pressure, and it was not impressive. What are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, look, Dak Prescott, man, it was a tough matchup for him, just like Griffin said, man. Watching the game, man, just looking at it, I'm looking at Dak, and I'm like, man, Dak, this is just not your game, man. The game plan they had for him, he needs a running game that he can be able to play off of and effectively do the play action pass, get him moving. Those things didn't happen for the Cowboys last night. They had a running game that was starting to work for them. I mean, Alfred Morris, 91 yards, the most so far that the Eagles have allowed from a rushing attack from an opponent. But, it just didn't translate to the passing game. The receivers wasn't getting open for him consistently and be able to catch the ball. There was a lot of drop passes, overthrown, interceptions and fumbles. It was just a rough night for Dak last night, man. And he's basically shown that he's still in development. He's not that dude that he can be able to overcome the running back your star running back not being there. Overcome your left tackle not being there. You know, he's just not at that level yet.
Left tackle not being there, other pieces gone from last year. It's still a good offensive line, but not nearly the Cowboys' offensive line, the top one in the league that we've seen the last couple of years, and he's struggling under pressure.
It's not your father's Cowboys' offensive line, what we watched yesterday.
Let's be fair. If this is your father's line we're talking about, you're probably too young to be listening to the show. But you know, yeah. And then of course Jay Cutler only good for 3.42 fantasy points in a good matchup. So deeper leagues might have been starting him. Of course, he got knocked out of the game. Other people who let you down. Alex Smith, my start of the week. What happened in this game besides bad weather?
Oh man,
Alex Smith.
Bad things.
7.9 fantasy points. The Chiefs are in trouble, guys. They have put up very few points. They have lost, 4 of their last 5? What is going on in Kansas City right now? All the while Kareem Hunt seemingly not getting any volume, the guy who got them there. What do you guys think about this? It's a little bit off topic what we're supposed to be talking about, but I'm genuinely curious what your guys' thoughts are.
I think the defensive coordinators have got a look at the offense as it was with kind of a new high power that with Tyreek Hill and with this young running back Hunt, and they realized what they had to do, and I think they've been able to adapt a little bit. I don't expect this to continue. I think the Chiefs will get tougher and start winning games again because they've got one of the top coaches in football. So I think that's it. I think people just kind of got to look at it, and they were doing so well for so long. They adjusted, and now they're going to have to adjust. Now the Chiefs are going to have to adjust.
Yeah, I agree with Jason. I think right now the Chiefs have been drinking their own Kool-Aid for too long. They just haven't freshened it up, even switched the flavor up. They just been drinking the same exact Kool-Aid from week 1 up until you gotta switch it up, man. So it's been tough, man. And I think that game on this past Sunday against the Giants really, woke up a lot of people. Like, the Chiefs are not the team that a lot of people thought they were. That game was pathetic.
It looks like, honestly, going back and really looking at the tape, because I've done a bit. I haven't gone back and looked at this past week's yet, but in previous weeks I've gone back, done the coaches cam, looked at what they're doing, looked at the breakdowns and the tendencies, and it looks really, up until this point, like they've been really doing these really cool big play designs. They're chucking the ball downfield, making Alex Smith look like a guy who he hasn't been his whole career, and it just looks like they never really evolved from that point, and defenses have gotten wise to it. So like they spent an offense scheming these things, and now that it's not working, they seem to not have answers. So, I don't know. Yeah. And this was against a bad defense that has been struggling. Opposite side of the ball, of course, Eli Manning only went off for 8.7 fantasy points, so technically a pretty good matchup, which should have been a higher scoring game. It ended up going to overtime and being a no touchdown scored game. So that's pretty gross. Jared Goff, a guy that we talked about probably not playing this week. I know he's had 2 monster weeks the previous 2 weeks, but at least to me, those were in good matchups, so I didn't buy into him in a really, really tough matchup like this was against the Vikings, and turned out to be the case. Only good for 9.8 fantasy points, so that's too bad there. CJ Sit of the Week, Blake Bortles, 10.56 fantasy points, a good call there. And then Derek Carr, 15.48 fantasy points. A bit of a letdown in what should have been a pretty good matchup. In Mexico City, maybe the travel hurt. I doubt it. I don't know. It just was the Raiders have also not been what we had thought they were going to be coming into the year. So that offense needs to find themselves, but they're running out of time. Running backs that let you down. Kenyon Drake, only good for 1.4 fantasy points.
Dang it, Kenyon.
I don't really know what to say here. The whole team really struggled in this game. I don't know. Did you guys have anything that really you wanted to add to this? We've talked about this game pretty extensively. What happened?
Yeah.
Different quarterback changes your whole dynamic, man.
That it does. Isaiah Crowell, 1.8 fantasy points. Not too surprised there. Tough matchup. Danny Woodhead. I told a lot of people were asking me, Danny Woodhead's back. What do I do? Give him a week. It's his first week back from IR. He's in a committee. Wait and see how it plays out. And if you heeded that advice, you were happy about it because he only went off for 2.3. Adrian Peterson, my sit of the week, only went off for 3.9. Doug Martin continuing. Doug Martin is a bum. besides that one good week that he had coming back from his suspension, he has been garbage this season. I don't know about you guys. I know I've rostered him in a lot of leagues, thinking all these glowing reports from the preseason, thinking he was going to be just fresh legs that I would have to ride to hopefully some championships down the line, and he has been an absolute disaster. He went for 74 yards and a touchdown in his first week back against the Patriots, and it's been basically all downhill since. So it was 14.5, 8, 7, 0.7, 5, 4 fantasy points has been his totals every week since.
Going the wrong way.
Drastically.
Not
scaling
good.
the wrong direction with consistency. Yeah. So if you look at a line graph, it shows it. So I ask you guys, what do we do with Doug Martin? Because I don't think you can drop him because volume, though. I mean, he's getting 20 attempts a week. I mean, that's hard to come by.
Hey, how's that working out?
I'm not saying start him.
4 points last week.
Well, I mean, look, the volume is hard to come by, especially off the waiver wire. I mean, I don't think you're starting him, but I think you're holding on to him, hoping that he gets going. I think he turns us around a bit with Jameis Winston coming back in a couple weeks. Maybe he's still going to be something that you can use in the playoff run if you make it that far. Or do you drop him out there, let someone else pick him up on name value? Hopefully it's your opponent and they start him, and it's the long con. He screws over the team that picks him up. Why not? What are you guys doing?
I mean, I told you guys. For me personally, I have him in a couple leagues. I put him on my bench. Wait until Jameis comes back. I feel like this offense is full better. He will get more production when Jameis is in there, because right now with Jameis being out, they're gonna force Ryan Fitzpatrick to throw the ball. They're going to shut down the run like they've been doing, force Ryan Fitzpatrick to throw the ball, and he's going to have to beat teams that way. This running game right now is non-existent because teams are just shutting it down. So you need something that's going to be more consistent. You get some more variety going forward with this offense, and you got to get your guy in there. And Jameis be Jameis, not like this inconsistent Jameis. Go back and be the Jameis that we love, the darling that we loved this past summer, and go out there and play, and you're going to see Doug Martin put up some good points. So if you need him, I'm sorry. He's not going to be effective to you until Jameis comes back. If you can afford to bench him and just wait till he comes back, I think that's the best play you can be able to do.
I mean, he's averaging around 2.5 yards a carry since that New England game, so it's really,
you can't
bad.
Start that.
No. I'm benching him. I'm hoping things turn around. I don't think you can drop someone that's getting that much volume because it only takes one play to break to get you a decent floor. But it's not something I'm starting with any confidence if I can help it right now. Let's see. DeMarco Murray, we saw that, of course, on Thursday Night Football. Not a very exciting performance there. Tough matchup. And Joe Mixon, 4.9. Wasn't the best matchup either. Against Denver. Denver's been a better run defense than pass defense as of late. Wide receivers that let you down. Nelson Aguilar, -0.2. Cole Beasley, 0.7. Emmanuel Sanders, 1.5. John Brown, 1.8. We'll talk about him soon. CJ Sit of the Week. Kelvin Benjamin, 2 points. Jordy Nelson, my sit of the week, 2.4. Devontae Parker, 2.6. We talked about what happened there. Shockingly, Martavis Bryant in that blowout win over the Tennessee Titans only got 3 points. Golden Tate, 3.2. Stephon Diggs, 3.2. Jeremy Maclin, 3.4. Sammy Watkins, 3.6. Juju Smith-Schuster didn't do well either. Literally, it all went through Antonio Brown. Juju Smith-Schuster, 4.7. And Dez Bryant, decent week, but 6.3. Not quite the 7-point threshold we want to see from a wide receiver. So these are guys that definitely didn't get you what you were hoping for. And tight ends that let you down. Jason Witten, 0.7. Zach Ertz, 0.8. Evan Ingram, 0.9. None of them even got you a point. And they're all guys that have been great this season. Jermaine Gresham, who was your start of the week, Jason, 1 point.
Yeah, I got it right that they were going to go to the tight end more often, but I got the wrong tight end.
Yeah, you went.
I should have gone with Ricky Seals-Jones.
Yeah,
dang it! What was I thinking?
Incorrectly went with the number 1 tight end. You should have known to go with the number 3, 4 tight end, Jason. What's wrong with you? Come on.
Number 4. I should have gone with number 4.
Rookie mistake. Cameron Brate. Again, CJ's start of the week, 1.2. So
2-1.
Recommended the wrong tight end there, and
I'm still doing good.
You're still doing good.
We did the same thing. We both did the same thing.
Yep. Man. And this is again why I don't like committees for fantasy. David Njoku, 1.3. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't like the position group. Yeah,
the whole dang position group.
I've seen people calling for it removed from fantasy, which I think is ludicrous. But they've been trying to get rid of kickers for years in some circles. But no, David Njoku 1.3, Martellus Bennett 1.5, CJ Fedorowicz 1.8. So that was your sit of the week, CJ. Hunter Henry 2.5, Charles Clay, my sit of the week 2.7. And these are all guys who didn't even get you 3 points. And now we get to Julius Thomas, who got you 3. Rob Gronkowski, they got you 3.5. Eric Ebron, your sit of the week, Jason, 4.9. None of these guys got you even 5 points.
Freaking tight ends.
It's unbelievable. So yeah, these are all just notable names. Of course, there are a lot of other ones that we could spend an entire 2-hour show going through everyone and talking about what happened, but we got to get to headlines. And of course, the reason you're all here, the waiver wire targets. So with that, let's move into our top headlines from around the league. We'll start in Tampa Bay, where head coach Dirk Cutter confirmed on Monday that quarterback Jameis Winston will miss week number 12. Of course, dealing with the shoulder injury. He will most likely miss the following week as well, according to the Tampa Bay Times' Rick Stroud. I don't know how you say his name. So yeah, there's the our Doug Martin argument just got.
Year.
I know. They had this whole kind of prestige around them coming off of Hard Knocks. And then it seems like everything got derailed after that week 1 bye that they were forced to take, and now they don't have time to make adjustments. So that definitely sucks. So we'll see. If Jameis Winston doesn't come back, that definitely hurts our Doug Martin argument. In Indianapolis, head coach Chuck Pagano said that quarterback Jacoby Brissett remains in the league's concussion protocol. So we'll see how that plays out there. Let's hope at least Jacoby plays. It's not a good situation behind him. In Miami, quarterback Jay Cutler is officially in the league's concussion protocol as well. And again, if he doesn't go, Matt Moore will, and then that makes us all like Kenny Stills a lot more. And then Arizona head coach, wow, that's not what I meant to say. Arizona quarterback Blaine Gabbert will remain the quarterback in week number 12. So, yeah, all good news there because he at least takes shots. Let's go to the running back position, where we start with some depressing news where Houston Texans rookie running back Deonta Foreman is believed. This has not been confirmed, at least through any sources I've seen. Have you guys seen confirmation yet?
No, not yet.
It is believed heavily through multiple sources that he tore his Achilles tendon on that second touchdown that he scored. He is reportedly done for the year, so that's really, really bad news. If you're a Deonta Foreman owner, you're hoping to get, of course, a better run. This was his breakout game. And on the other hand, Lamar Miller just got a massive bump. So, it is what it is, I guess. In Washington, running back Chris Thompson has a fractured fibula. He is reportedly done for the year as well, which, man, if you guys picked up Samaje Perine last week, you're pretty excited right now.
No joke.
We were talking about him then. Arizona Cardinals have waived running back Andre Ellington. They then signed Bronson Hill off the practice squad. Jason, Cardinals fan.
Eagles fan.
Yeah, sorry, wrong guy. He's converting after this year.
Wrong bird.
That was your bet, right? The Carson bet, right? You have to switch allegiances? No? Am I remembering that wrong?
Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit.
That was a bet on the Patreon show, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, okay, so most of our listener base doesn't even know what's going on. Yeah, head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. A lot of cool, fun stuff that happens over there, guys. You won't regret it, including some of the best content we put out. But yeah, so Cardinals fan. Yes.
Okay.
What is the question?
What is happening?
What's the question?
Oh, I thought you were asking me a question. I was like, what? Oh, okay. I was saying...
No, I said you're going to ask me a question?
I am. What's going on in Arizona?
Well, they're trying to figure out the puzzle. They're trying to figure out why they can't win. They've got the talent. They've got the ability. They've even got the veterans in place. They've got everything they need to win games. They're trying to figure out why they're not. And the other problem is DJ Foster, the guy that we just drafted in the draft, extremely fast running back. They're very excited about what they saw in the preseason. He hurt himself in preseason. He's been out for a while. They knew they were going to get a roster spot for him. Andre Ellington is the casualty there. Bronson Hill is just somebody to take up a roster spot for right now to play special teams until Foster is back, which should be very, very soon. I'm kind of sad to see Andre Ellington go. I mean, he was our guy for a while. He is a fantastic running back, but I'm kind of not surprised to see him go.
The whole not being able to stay healthy thing doesn't help either.
At all, And I think he's going to fit in really well with another team. He's kind of got that elusive speed. He's got the hands. He's got everything he needs to be very, very, very good as a third down back somewhere.
I wouldn't be surprised if he lands in Houston, honestly.
At all, yeah.
Yeah, they need that. Well, I mean, Lamar Miller kind of is that role, but they need depth, and he could provide that depth.
Yeah.
Especially with Dante Foreman going down, like we just talked about. Let's go to Green Bay, where according to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel's Michael Cohen, Green Bay running back Aaron Jones was arrested for speeding, driving without a valid driver's license, and operating a vehicle with a controlled substance in his system. This happened back in October. News is just breaking about it, but of course this will probably lead to disciplinary actions down the line. So Jamal Williams looking like a much surer bet going through the remainder of the year. So hopefully you guys rostered him as well. We will update as we know more. And let's move to the wide receiver position, where reports are out of the Los Angeles Rams camp are saying that Robert Woods' shoulder injury is not as bad as originally suspected. Great news there, because of course Robert Woods is the top fantasy wide receiver in Los Angeles. This is stemming from reports that he was spotted in a sling after the game, but initial tests have shown no structural damage, so his timetable to return is greatly reduced. Good news there. Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott reported that wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin did not suffer any ligament damage in his knee, which was originally the fear, so that's good news there. We will update as we know more on his timetable for return. In Washington, wide receiver Terrell Pryor was placed on injured reserve after undergoing ankle surgery, so an incredibly disappointing 1 year in Washington has come to an end. And what do you guys think Terrell Pryor lands after this? I mean, I doubt he returns to Washington, but he has not exactly put up the performance. He bet on himself this year. It was a 1-year contract, and he has fallen absolutely short of his own expectations. What do you think happens with him?
I can probably see him in Dallas.
In Dallas?
Yeah, I can see him in Dallas.
I could see him being just one of the circus of guys that ends up in New England, personally. We'll see. This is more of an off-season conversation, but I just wanted to test the waters here.
I'm going to say Panthers. I'm going to go Panthers. Yep.
I don't hate that, actually. They need a guy like him. In Arizona, back to Arizona for the third time, wide receiver John Brown has been diagnosed with turf toe, according to head coach Bruce Arians, and he believes that he could, quote, miss time, end quote, which to me means John Brown is droppable because John Brown, of course, with his sickle cell. Thank you. I was like sickle something. I couldn't remember the word. It takes him forever to return. So if he misses any time, it's probably going to be at least a month before he gets back and your fantasy season is over. Now, I'm probably overestimating it, but it's being realistic at the same time.
I agree with you. Yeah, I would say John Brown is probably droppable at this point. And keep your eye on Chad Williams. Bruce Arians targeted Thanksgiving time for Chad Williams to be ready to go with the first unit, so we'll see if that actually happens.
I don't know why, but my initial thought when you said Chad Williams was Chad Johnson. I was like, Chad Ochocinco.
No.
He's making his way back, baby.
He's back.
He would not fit in with this offense.
He's back.
Bruce Arians would end up tying him into a chair somewhere.
He would do something to this offense.
I don't know why my brain went there. It just, I don't know. I had to share.
You're weird.
I am. And then let's go to the tight end position where Carolina Panthers tight end Greg Olsen is practicing on Monday, coming back from that foot injury, which he was on IR. Guys, if Greg Olsen is available in your league, he is a must-add. He has been dropped. I mean, with how bad the tight end position has been, he has been dropped in a number of leagues. Actually, let me look up his current ownership. Do you guys know it by any chance off the top of your heads?
I do not.
He is owned in only 61% of leagues. So go get him. Actually, in this league I just looked at, he's available. Look at that. Oh, I gotta love those passive family and work leagues. Yeah, always upgrading, always getting better. Even though you're winning and undefeated in that league. Anyway, with that, let's
humble brag.
Humble brag.
Humble brag.
Yeah, you can only devote all your time and attention to so many leagues, but it's nice when the ones that you're not really paying that much attention to, you turn around and you're like, oh wait, I'm actually having a great year here. So with that, let's move on to our top waiver wire targets for week number 12. The reason that everybody is here, and we have to start as we always do at the running back position, where I've got two guys because much like we had a must add with Greg Olsen, I have a must add here, and it would be a disservice to you guys not to talk about him. Samaje Perine. He's barely outside of our statute of limitations for this program. I mean, we try to focus on guys who are available in at least 50% of leagues, so at least a 50-50 shot that you can get him. He's owned in 57.4% of leagues, so slightly decreased chance that he's available. But if he is, guys, he is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we would all agree he is the must-add at the running back position this week. With Rob Kelly and Chris Thompson going down, he is looking at just a mass of volume, and that's opportunity, and that translates into fantasy points more times than not. So do you guys agree?
Definitely has opportunity.
I totally agree.
Yes. Now, on a more realistic approach to fit this limitations, I also threw in Dion Lewis, who seemingly has cemented himself as the number one running back in New England. Yes, it is a committee. It's messy, but you're not going to find any clear-cut guys, unless it's Samaje Perine, who are going to be getting a big workload here. Dion Lewis is involved in the running game. He got the most rushing attempts. He's involved in the passing game. They use him. He gets special teams points if your leagues allow you to do that. He is a total package guy who's getting more and more involved with every single passing week, getting back to how he looked in 2015 before he first got hurt, which derailed his last season and a half, where he was the number 7 running back on the season until he got hurt. So go get Dion Lewis. He's only owned in 26.6% of leagues. He could be one of those guys that really seriously help potentially win you a league this year. I honestly believe that. CJ, your guy.
My guy is Corey Clement, man. Now, look, I'm not being a homer on this one. I just wanted you to look at the stats. This guy's been getting involved in this Eagles offense ever since week 3, man. Getting involved in the passing game, rushing game, and one thing he has been doing since week 3, and had a couple of off weeks where he was getting yardage but not a touchdown. But he was getting those touchdowns, and this Eagles offense is getting him the ball, giving him opportunities, and Doug Peterson likes him, man. So, look, if you're hurting, you Chris Thompson, man, owners, man, you need somebody. I think you should look at Corey Clement.
There you go, Jason, your guy.
I want to say Austin Eckler. Obviously had a very, very good week last week against Jacksonville, 21.9 points. And then this week, he was involved again, got another touchdown, ended up with 11.8 points. So somebody that looks like he's becoming more involved in this offense, which is going to eat into Melvin Gordon's production, but it's going to give him a healthy spot for himself to carve out. So if you need somebody and you're in deeper leagues, this is a good guy to put on your bench to see if this consistency continues. 42 yards rushing against Jacksonville, 40 yards rushing against Buffalo. He's even got some pretty good matchups coming up soon, too. So this might be a good guy to put on your roster.
I like it. With that, let's move on to the wide receiver position, where I am continuing the trend of telling you guys to pick up Robbie Anderson. I know it's a Jet. I know that's disgusting with the preseason narrative, but guys, Robbie Anderson, as we talked about, has been a wide receiver 1. And not just for his team, but for fantasy over the last quarter of the season. He has been on pace to put up a very serious end-of-season stat line. He's been getting a touchdown in each of his last, 4 or 5 games? I don't have his stats in front of me. And he's just been the go-to receiver, getting volume. And he's a guy that's only owned in 40% of leagues. So I would be definitely looking to add him. He does have a tougher matchup against the Panthers this week, but he's got some really nice matchups down the line. So I definitely highly recommend picking up Robbie Anderson. And a guy who you might be able to get, honestly, for a little bit cheap, because coming off the bye week, people might have forgotten about him. So make a play for him. CJ, your guy.
My guy is Dontrell Inman, man. Look, Dontrell Inman, he started off with the Chargers, got traded to the Chicago Bears, and for some reason, on this offense, he's been getting those opportunities. He's been that guy for yardage. He's been that guy for receptions. So look, I understand you're probably like, the Bears offense, but look, if you're hungry, you're desperate wide receiver help, man. I'm saying give him a shot, man. Take a look at him.
Jason?
Yeah. Mine's also kind of a deeper one. This is a guy that is almost a heart pick for me because this is the kind of guy I like to see succeed. Marquise Goodwin over in San Francisco. This kid is very, very fast. He's got a lot of ability, and he's starting to look like he's carving himself out a niche in that offense. He's had a couple of decent games, including against the Giants, which is the most recent game, where he scored 16.1 points, and he's coming out of the bye. Now, he's got a tough matchup this week going up against Seattle, but it is a divisional matchup. They're going to play tough. San Francisco has been looking a little better recently, so I think this is a guy that you want to put on your roster because he's going to, like I said, he's going to start getting more opportunities, and that speed is something that you cannot plan for.
Yeah, I like it. With that, let's move on to the tight end position where, just to put this out there again, we had a must-add that falls a little bit outside of our limitations here. We mentioned this in the news. Greg Olsen, if he is available in your league, he is by far and away the must-add at the tight end position. We all agree?
Yes.
Agreed.
We all agree. Owned in 60% of leagues. In the world of realism, falling into our actual what we're doing here, Tyler Kroft is my guy. Yes, I know, the Bengals, gross. Their offense, really not what we hoped it would be. But Andy Dalton has 2 targets that he features in the red zone. A.J. Green, who draws all the coverage, and his tight end, which was Tyler Eifert. Eifert is done for the year. Tyler Kroft has filled in that role, and yes, he's a little bit boom-bust, but he was on the field for 90% of the snaps last week. He's getting volume, and he's featured in the red zone. Go get him, guys. He has the potential to put up a very good end-of-season year, and he's getting it done. Not necessarily week in, week out, but in good matchups, he is a very safe streaming option. He's only owned in 10% of leagues, so if you're hurting or in a 2-tight-end league, go grab him.
Hey, listen, man, I know Griffin was bashing this guy earlier, but I'm going to say O.J. Howard, man. Listen, reason why I like O.J. Howard, man, he's getting the opportunities. Listen, this tight end position, this waiver wire, it's going to be boom bust. And this is what it is. I agree with Jason. This is what's going on. If you get more than 7 points at the fantasy for the tight end position right now, guess what? Count yourself blessed. Because it's so vital. It's going up and down like the stock market, man. You need to just got to get somebody that has opportunity that can be able to get the shot. And I think O.J. Howard is that dude. So, bump Griffin.
I mean, I've made quite the argument. Go back to the was that even the news?
Wow.
Where were we? Were you talking about duds when we got into that argument?
Hey, where's your take on Austin Fears and Jenkins? I haven't heard you talk about him in quite a while.
And where's he been?
That used to be your guy on here for weeks. What happened to that?
Well, he's on a bye week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Austin Seferian-Jenkins is a high number 2 tight end on the year, and that's with him having suspension for the first couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Sure.
I don't know where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
And he's not in a committee. He's not in a committee. Volume,
on.
opportunity, scoring. Jason, your guy.
Yeah. My guy's Vernon Davis. He has been pretty consistent, honestly. If you look over the last several weeks, starting with week 7, 67 yards. He had a down game against Dallas, only went for 20 yards, but then he went for 72 yards, 76 yards, and 67 yards. When he scores a touchdown, obviously, he puts up really nice numbers for you, and he will get those opportunities because, as we've covered ad nauseum, Jordan Reed is hurt and will continue to be hurt. If he's not hurt with his hamstring, he'll be hurt with something else. So Vernon Davis is going to continue to get opportunities and continue to have the ball thrown at him. So Vernon Davis, there's a good tight end pickup for you.
I like it. So with that, we are out of here. Please make sure you guys tune in on Friday when we'll be doing our starts and sits for week number 12. If you guys want to support the show, follow the show, do any of that fun stuff, head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Get yourself bonus perks every single week, including the bonus episodes where We kind of hint at it a lot on the show. It's not only a lot of fun, but we really deep dive into the really important stats. We've been giving you guys players that are definitely worth adding and dropping, best and worst playoff matchups, fantasy points against, rankings, good matchups, bad matchups, streaming, all types of great information that you get only over there. So that, again, is patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics, and help us keep the lights on. It's a good time, guys. Or if you want to just follow the show and interact with us, head over to Twitter at the FF Fanatics, or individually, I'm at G Palmer FFF, CJ's at CJ Hickman 89, Jason is at Jason Cabrera 13, and if you guys really want to help the show, also head over to iTunes, give us a rating, give us a review, helps the show out a ton. And let's get some questions on the show. We haven't done mailbag for a while, so let's throw some of those on. So if you guys have any questions that you want to get on maybe Friday's show, or maybe we'll do it on Patreon show, I don't know. Comment down below if you're on YouTube. Send them in on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. We'll have some fun. Normally we answer them, just individually, but it's fun to put them on the show. We've been slacking on that a little bit. So yeah, any parting thoughts before we sign off, guys?
Hey guys, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, guys.
Absolutely.
And we will be. We haven't exactly ironed out the schedule. I believe we have a regularly scheduled program, but if that changes, again, you'll find out on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. So, all right, guys, have a great week. Have a even better Thanksgiving, and we will see you at the end of the week at some point. All right, guys, take care.